press spokesperson of the Interior Ministry, as well as also a member of the NDC's National Communications team. Bob Bachman, unfortunately, will not be with us this morning, but Mark Ewusi Ako is with Election Watch Ghana. In fact, they put together this forum which saw the National Security Coordinator make the comments which he made. And I'm going to have us listen to him first. And then when we return, we'll get into the conversations for you here on the 3FM Sunrise. Yes, the National Security Coordinator, COP Osman Abdul Razak, speaking yesterday.
Reduce visibility of these groups as complete eradication. A vigilante group is a vigilante group, regardless of its name, uniform, or publicity. We are very much aware that some groups are rebranding as internal security teams, volunteer task forces, or community security initiatives. Others have dissolved into looser and less visible networks that are more complex to track. But if our ability to track people on social media is anything to go by, a word to a wise is enough. Again, mobilization has moved online on social media, encrypted chats, local disputes, private security arrangements, or other informal channels.
Ghana does not have a vigilantism problem because we don't have laws. Now, I want us to be very clear about that. We don't have a vigilantism problem because there are no laws. In other words, there are laws, but the laws don't help to protect people against vigilantism. Ghana has a vigilantism problem because it has chosen deliberately, not inadvertently, not to consistently enforce the laws it has already enacted. And I think the executive director of Election Watch pointed to that. We are being deliberate that we have passed a law. That's the Honorable Francis Poku said. We're only passing the law to tick a box, not intending that after the enactment, anybody who ran foul of the law was going to be dealt with according to the law. Only yesterday, the Minister for Interior, during his press engagement, mentioned that some individuals who violated Ghana's stability 2020-2024 were being hunted, that 7 or so of them were before court. And the name that I think you mentioned, this double man who was selling used phones or whatever around Circle, was on the run or is on the run. The question we need to ask is, if the act is working, why has it taken us from 2019 to 2026 that we still cannot find the perpetrators or some of the perpetrators, besides the egregious disregard by the government of the day to address the recommendations that the eminent Emil Short, addressed? And I believe Crosby alluded to the gentleman who was shot with 4 children, probably not going to be able to work for life. If that is how we think we want to operate with the act, then I think my proposition is right, that with the laws, or we don't want the laws to work. And apart from everything anybody here says today, the reason why the laws are not working is not technical, it's political. the two political actors, and we need to say, the two main political actors experientially have been the only ones who have been able to govern this country since the advent of this constitution, appear to have a sort of gentleman's agreement, a club mentality that I will not deal with you, so that when you are in power, you don't deal with me. I mean, there is no way of defending the attitude and the mindset and the philosophy of our political actors other than saying that because each party has members who run foul of the law, we'll go soft with you. And when you come to power, you also go soft with us. So, the Honorable Agyekum I haven't met before. In her days, became a Rambo, carrying a pistol and firing all over the places. What happened to her? The law did not deal with the Honorable Agyekum. So, people were grieving. And when those people had a chance, at Ablekuma North, if I'm not mistaken, they also wreaked vengeance and went after her, knowing that their party was in power. And when their case went to court, did the charge sheet, cite violations of the Act 999? Or is cited, as Minister Francis Poku has said, existing laws? The reality of what is happening is that the Act has become redundant. All that the institutions of the state are doing, particularly the police, are acting with the existing laws as enshrined in the criminal code and other offenses, not with the
point in time in the life of our party, we need somebody who the ordinary person can resonate with, somebody who is without blemish. And that is why I feel that at this material moment, we need the Venerable Boakye Agyekum to steer the affairs of the New Patriotic Party. Yes, at this point.
I agree with Derrick completely. On our side, if I would not be partisan in the matter, I think that Boakye Agyekum should be national chairman of the MPP.
There's Paul Afoko in the mix somewhere.
Well, yes, I can't claim to have studied Paul Afoko, but I've studied Boakye Agyekum. And I think that our politics will return to issues. The debates will be more intellectual.
Refined.
Refined. The people who will be put forward on the side of the MPP would now take the picture and character of Boakye Agyekum, so that, because I don't believe, as I often say, that the New Patriotic Party must be in a deteriorated state before the NDC can succeed. It must be a situation where the two political parties put their best foot forward. Let's compete on the basis of our best foot being forward, and then let the people of Ghana decide. which of the options, works for them at a particular time in time. Honorable Boakye Agyekum, I think among the people who are contesting, he stands tall for me. I only disagree with him in the past on one of his most popular comments that
My party right or wrong,
they should stand by.
But
I disagree with him on that. But with the options that we have, I think that the Honorable Boakye Agyekum should be elected. They will do themselves some good. They will become more competitive, which ordinarily from a street partisan sense is a problem for us. But they'll become more competitive if Honorable Boakye Agyekum is elected. So as an outsider, my moral support is for the Honorable Boakye Agyekum.
One to me we saw withdrew from the race late last night as well.
Yeah.
Says that, I mean, why are you...
I read his love letter.
Agyekum, you were not for his... I know you've not been for his campaign because obviously, but some have described it as a step in the right direction. His decision to... Because it could have thrown the race into all kinds of troubles.
Yes.
Possible legal suit and all.
Last week, I read a post on my senior Judge Sapon speaking on the conversation and what the law says. And so I think that in the interest of even our party, for want of better words, somebody who have been prosecuted, who has been convicted for such a crime, in the interest of our party and in safeguarding our political virtues, I did not think that it was even right to have allowed him to want to even contest. And so if he has written a love letter to us, if he has withdrawn, I mean, the words that he wrote were so emotional and then they were deep. This is only a phase and then a chapter in his life. At some point in time, the right things will be done. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. On that NPP note, let's get into our conversation this morning. And we've heard in part COP Abdul Razak speaking. The question I want to ask is very simple, and perhaps I'll start with you, Julius, whether this is a new development which we're learning of, or it's something that has been with us ever since the legislation was passed in 2019, because the groups existed, and then a legislation came into being, and suddenly they had to vanish. They were going to take some shape or form, many will argue.
The point is that laws don't enforce themselves, and laws are a pact between members of a society, a community. They are the rules of engagement that those people have signed up to live with. Before 2019, when Act 999 was passed, the political parties had these private groupings, if I would speak plainly, vigilante groups. And we all concluded that these groups would not help us. It was not only in the political parties. In fact, politics permeates almost everything in this country so much that real estate developers copied it. Chiefs copied it. In fact, even some social groups copied it. And so we had a land guard situation in the country as well. Chiefs were using land guards, real estate developers were using land guards, individuals were using land guards to protect properties in this country. And often we hear clashes between land guards, people die, people are shot, all of that. We all agreed that this practice is not going to engender well for the democratic, reputation that Ghana wants to build in this sub-region and the world at large. So in 2019, the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana passed this law. In fact, prior to the passage of that law, the political parties themselves entered pacts, Derrick, if you recall, to disband vigilante groups in the country. That pact speaks to what the law is supposed to be. Laws generally reflect the attitudes of people in a community, so that outliers who breach that law, then the generality of the community, expresses their reprobium, their repudiation for the conduct those people put up. And so we needed the two largest groupings, the NDC and the NDC, to first, reach some consensus that this is a conduct we want to put behind us. And we did that. I don't understand why these groupings are coming back. I have two videos on my phone now. One of a group of people being sworn in as members of a so-called protection group for the New Patriotic Party. I have an aspirant in the upcoming national elections, a woman. I am holding the video for some purposes. I'll give them to you when it gets to the stage where I deem it necessary. I'm holding them. Was on a campaign tour telling people that what's the name? The former general secretary of the MPP, who is now running for national chairman, John Boadu, that when John Boadu becomes chairman of the party, they will be able to reactivate.
Those were her words.
I'm telling you, I have it here. I have the reason why I have not yet sent it to your producer, so that if I am put to street proof, I put it out.
Because I will want to see exactly what content.
I'm sending it.
And the exact words. Kindly share with Frederick from
these conducts. We must let me land the point while I'm sending it. We must be very, very careful how we encourage these conducts in the country. Because at the end of the day, you see, when you are forming these groups, typically they will not ask Derrick to join those groups. They will not ask me to join those groups. They will not ask you to join those groups. In fact, even if they ask Derrick to join those groups, because he has his ambitions to protect, because you have your ambitions to protect, I have mine to protect, I will not join those groups. What is it that we think of the people that we put into those groups? I have always been against the characterization of citizenship into various classes. But you realize that there is a particular category of people who they typically recruit into these groups. It would not be my job to mention it here. We all know. Are we suggesting that the only purpose those people can serve in our communities, in our societies, is for us to weaponize them to destroy the democracy we are building? And at the end of the day, those of us, I wouldn't even say those of us because it would look like I'm not. Those of them who are encouraging the formation of these groups, in reality are the ones who have something to lose. The people they ask to join these groups typically have nothing to lose. And so when we do this, and the clashes begin, and the alarm begins to sound that we should burn things down, we should destroy the country, those people have no incentive not to prevent that from happening. They will go ahead and destroy because they have nothing to lose. So those of us who think we have something to lose, which is why we will not be part of the vigilante group, Derrick will not be part of a vigilante group. You will not be part of it. I will not be part. We must begin to reason that this is not even a matter for law. I have always said that society precedes law. Laws are typically a reaction to what the conduct in society is. Which is why I started by telling you the background, why 2019 we passed that law. Why prior to 2019 pacts were entered by political parties. Laws are mostly a reaction to what is happening, which means that if society can self-regulate, if individuals can be reasonable, you will not need laws for certain things. There's no law in Ghana that forces you to brush your teeth or comb your hair or dress neatly. The reason is because reasonably we all agree that you can't be moving around with odor and be disturbing everybody. If people were to begin moving about like that, you realize that we'll find a need to legislate that people cannot move out of their house without bathing. Right. Which is why these issues, I don't see it as legal problems. I don't see it as legal problems. I don't see it as law enforcement problems. Because we have two large groupings. In the recent election, even the loser had about 6 million votes, true or false?
Yeah.
The winner, similar. In fact, 7 million plus. I'm getting my figures wrong.
No, I think
I don't recall. Over 4 million. Over 4 million.
It was a million, almost 2 million votes difference. Right?
Yeah, 1.7. That tells you the characterization of the groupings we have in the country. If those two groupings commanding millions of followers do not agree that these are conducts that should not be accepted, it is then that law comes in. And when it comes to the enforcement of the law, let me put this on record. When we are talking about the 2020 and 2024 election violence, most of the cases involved some law enforcement officers going out of their way to shoot people. In Ablekuma, the suspect, who is yet to be identified, was in military camouflage. As to whether or not he is indeed a military officer is yet to be established. The same way we are arguing that members of the security forces have no right to open fire on people by reason of protecting one political interest or the other. The same way civilian vigilante groups have no such authority to attack, maim, cause mayhem for people in the name of elections. And the same way we are asking that there should be a clampdown on members of law enforcement institutions who conduct themselves like that, there will be a clampdown on civilian groupings who conduct themselves like that. I have heard some of the groups are called bulldogs. If you feel that in elections there is a necessity to unleash bulldogs on the population, law enforcement would also find the need or the use of their guns. We must understand that just as law enforcement institutions are not allowed to unilaterally, for purposes of protecting political interests whatsoever, unleash violence on the citizenry, if we allow civilian vigilante groups in the name of bulldogs and we unleash bulldogs onto the population, the Ghanaian people cannot watch as they get overrun by bulldogs. Law enforcement would also find use for their guns. So we must be very careful the path we are treading on this matter. I've sent the video to
the video has been airing, and I'm wanting to ask a curious question in relation to it.
Yes.
First off, I mean, if this is coming to the attention of, and you're not just a member of the NDC's communication team. You speak for the Interior Ministry and who has supervisory jurisdiction on national security as well. The National Security Coordinator is the one who's making these comments. The expectation is that this will come to your attention and there will be some follow-up made.
You saw the video, right? Did you listen?
Frederick, roll it. I'll have us listen.
Did you listen? There is a reason why personally, in fact, at the start of this, I was on the same page with Derrick advocating for Agyekum, so that we can return to reason. Here you are. You have somebody campaigning for the chairman of the New Patriotic Party, right? And the campaign message is that if they elect John Boadu would be able to unleash terror onto the country. That is the campaign message. That is the campaign message. That if they elect John Boadu, he will be able to unleash bulldogs onto the population so that the New Patriotic Party can win elections. We must, as a matter of urgency, agree. That is why I'm saying that this is not a law enforcement issue alone. And I have told you the consequences of us getting to the point where it becomes a law enforcement matter. If you unleash dogs on law enforcement will also unleash the only weapons available to them. They also unleash their guns. Is that where we want to get to as a people? So let's be very, very cautious. The sort of conduct we put up in the name of elections in this country.
Right.
And I am very concerned also, I'll land on that point, about the people being recruited for these purposes. We cannot be in Accra. When you hear the language of the Honorable Alexander Afenyo-Markin, micro-minority leader in Parliament.
Is that fair way to
when you hear his language in Parliament,
leader, not micro.
Micro-minority. We've never had a minority so micro. Micro-minority leader in Parliament. He uses a certain language where he calls himself and certain people as members of the political class, where he often advocates that members of that class should not hold each other accountable. Anytime there's an issue involving a politician, you hear the Honorable Alexander Afenyo-Markin go to the public and be saying that Oh yes, sir. And it will be your turn. And I have videos of that as well. So I'll give them to you if need be, so you play them. There will be somebody's turn. And that we are members of the political class. We shouldn't be doing certain things to each other.
But
and those certain things are about people being prosecuted.
But is that not factual? He's speaking to a reality that exists. Because
I don't
Colonel
think...
Festus Abuaji from that event yesterday,
I heard him.
Said that there appears to be a gentleman's agreement between the two political parties.
There is no such...
You don't go after each other.
I denounce that. I attaint it. I reject it. There is no such gentleman agreement between anybody. The only advocates of, a class society in this country as we see today is a New Patriotic Party. Their leader in parliament, when a party is in opposition, the party is represented in parliament if they have seats. The leader of the party, who is elected by the political party, is a function of the political party, not the national government. So Dr. Bawumia is a function of the MPP as leader. But when it comes to the national government and the involvement of the New Patriotic Party, Alexander Afenyo-Markin is the leader of the MPP. The views he represents is that this society is a class society where he belongs to the upper class with a certain category of people he believes to be in it with him. And that the people in that class should not be prosecuted and be brought to justice in any case. The reason I am saying this is because he does not think same for the people they are encouraging to be part of vigilante groups. He sees them to be lower class citizens who, when they have a brush with law enforcement, should be prosecuted and dealt with. And so they are recruiting and using people, which is unfair, because if you think you belong to a certain class, you are in Accra, we are Karachi, and all of those things, you should expect that other people should also have the same sort of, protection that you ask for yourself. You don't go and recruit them and put them in line of the police to shoot, because if they go around and they mess up in the name of being bulldogs, if someone unleashes bulldogs on you, what will you do? What will you do? Would you watch for a bulldog to bite you? Ghana is not going to watch for bulldogs to bite us.
Fair
when
enough.
You use bulldogs as weapons, the police will use the weapons available to them. Let's be careful.
Fair enough. That's Julius Anthony speaking there. Derrick, I'm going to come to you. And I mean, you've seen a number of the things, and so you respond. 15 minutes is... Julius used 15 minutes, so you have 15 minutes as well. There is the bit as to a person campaigning for your chairman, and we haven't listened. Frederick, perhaps now will be a good time for us to listen, and then we can make some inference from this. So here, right.
But he's coming back. His security, your Delta Force, your Crocodile Machete, your BBA, Biboga Bulldogs, Obia, you ready, so Obabwa, Amayaji to me, no. And a 2 minute bar, or a national chairman, said you can for your candidate, I didn't come back. So, about constituency be your debaman, he will make sure. Obesi Subiasha Mukina said, Yamopesa Munyano, Mubenya. Never cross us higher than Babacam because the new patriotic party, a new government, ban, you're buying for front air ban, and you fed the agro, then this 4 boy and chia gum near Bab power. Omo buya no chia gum, and it would say, I did your born and he said near the woko. Your new government, Babano, Bibi Omoyan and ne, I almost see a ye piano, you're buying a bar and also so a ye. Yes, Bibi Omoyan and Nebia, yes, you had so almost say a byway or ye. Jesus Christ. TJB obey Jesus Christ, obey 12 disciples, obey friends, obey into Gabriel, obey BBB. So that your party forms who but Tom, yes, if you for the Dimia. Now I friend say about so for so why they at home. The sent to be uncle didn't you be Mesramuko to Jogo
campaigning for John Buedu and we heard Derrick. Now you have the right of response and also speaking to the concern of a resurgence of vigilante groups.
Eric, I've always said and I maintain that our problem as a country is the kind of politics that we do in this country. Julius here took us through the background of vigilantism. With my own little experience and with what I know from my political party, that is the New Patriotic Party, I remember as far back as in 2016, before the 2016 general elections, when I was a student and part of TESCON, working for the youth wing under the leadership of the Honorable Samuel Uku, then who was our youth organizer, we go out to campaign, we engage people, and they mention to us that MPP there be a to abamamo, but want to protect ballots, no. So all the time, the conversation was that people vote for the MPP, but we fail to protect the ballots. And prior to those times or previous elections were where we saw snatching of ballot boxes and all of that. And so there came about the Delta forces, the crocodiles.
And that's the basis for the formation of these groups.
The idea was to protect the polling stations. And so we had a campaign of Adopt a Polling Station where we went around speaking to sympathizers and supporters of the New Patriotic Party to provide funds so that we can finance some of these activities. And so we had gallant men who were protecting the ballots at the various polling stations. And that saw in 2016 fewer cases of ballot boxes being snatched and all of that. And so we as a people decided, or we agreed in 2019, that in the 2020 general elections, such activities were not necessary. Just as my brother Julius said, laws come because of societal apprehensions and all of that. And so if the society is not engaging in a particular act or a particular direction, I do not think that the laws become necessary. And for that matter, he cited that there are no laws that mandate somebody to brush your teeth or bath and all of that. And so when we as a people realized that it wasn't necessary at that material moment, we came together and then we brought up the Act 999. That was to ban vigilantism and all of that. And so MPP as a political party disengaged over 13 vigilante groups. The Western Crocodiles, the Delta Forces, the Bulldogs, the Kandahar Boys and all of that. We disengaged them. We went into 2020 elections without any vigilante group. We saw all that we saw. We went into 2024 elections. We as the two major political parties, we agreed that it wasn't necessary at that point. It wasn't necessary at that point in time. And so let's do away with it. What happened in the 2024 elections? If for nothing at all, we saw how people were beaten at the just Agyekum not by election that ended. And so if somebody is campaigning on the tangent that when you vote for her candidate, they will bring up about this vigilantism and all of that, I feel that our election should be about contest of ideas and all of that. Yes, it should be about contest of ideas and all of that. And so that may be her campaign message, regardless of the fact that I do not support vigilantism in its entirety, because at the end of the day, when there is mayhem, some of us may not be able to even run.
But I mean, in terms of policing, it should be the job of the Ghana Police Service and the respective security agencies.
As a person and on principle, I do not support vigilantism. But you see, you can't blame people on certain actions and decisions they may want to take. Are you telling me that Chris Lloyd, who was beaten on Agyekum not, would protect himself for the next election?
Beaten by who? That's the question. By a vigilante group? Is that it?
When the National Security Coordinator was speaking yesterday, he said something. He said that vigilantism is vigilante, regardless of the form or shape they take. If there are a group of persons that come attacking people, he treats it as vigilantism. Look at the people that were beaten. Beaten by who? The people that beat our people, are they people who vote in Agyekum not? What did we see about them? Are they not dining and in bed with the government today?
A number of them were prosecuted, were they not?
I was waiting to respond to these things.
And they were made to.
No, I'm just speaking from the top of my head as well.
Yes, they were granted bail. They were granted bail. And they were made to. No, I think after they were charged and they were paid about 6,400 Ghana cedis. So if my figures are right, and that's the law we agree. So, if somebody sits somewhere and may also want to have, if beat somebody and then when you are charged and you pay 6,400, then it will ensure my victory. Why won't people recruit people to do that? But I feel that if we will be able to do away with some of these things, we must ask your parties in government, your boss is the leader of the Interior Ministry protecting our internal security. Maybe they can revisit those laws, amend some of the provisions and ensure that the punishment thereof for some of these actions becomes stringent. Because if it's just about 6,000 Ghana cedis and I win an election to become the president of the nation, you think I can't afford it? You get where I'm coming from. And so people are hurt. People are broken because of what happened in those elections. And so they may want to protect themselves against such actions and activities in upcoming elections or the subsequent elections. And so they decide to, as it were, get people. It is somebody's also business. It's somebody's also job. And so it's not a conversation of somebody sees himself or herself as superior to you, and so they would recruit you to do one A or B of those works. But it's somebody live for it. That is what somebody has decided to do. And so it's not a conversation of we belittling them or making somebody feel inferior. Julius wants to possess. But it is somebody's business. Eric,
a business has in words.
I'm saying that it is somebody's work. People wake up, they train to be Machomen. That's the conversation that I'm having.
Derrick,
No.
Derrick, please be careful.
No.
Derrick, please. As a brother, I'm telling you, be careful. Be careful the things
No,
you
wait.
say.
I want to even understand. People wake up and train to be macho men.
Wait.
Derrick, be careful.
Understand?
No, as in bodybuilders.
Bodybuilders.
No, but being a bodybuilder is completely different from.
No,
from
so
being
do we force people into protection? Don't we have private security? Don't we have people who voluntarily? Wait. If I land, you will appreciate what I'm saying.
No, we actually love you and don't want you to tread that path. Honestly.
No, because if you are talking about private security, when you walked in, private security, they are not macho men. No, I'm even questioning you on the part or the tangent about.
No, I'm saying that.
Training to become macho men.
I'm saying that. You see, Julius made the point that the venerable minority leader, mighty minority leader, Afenyo Markin, has a powerful phrase that he used, that we belong to the political class. In dealing with one another, we must tread with some level of caution and all of that. And so that makes the point that those who are recruited into vigilantism are people that we, the political actors, see them as inferior people, for want of better words.
That's true.
And I'm suggesting that is your opinion, but
it's not my opinion, it's a fact.
No, Kwame, I'm suggesting to you that people do not force people into vigilantism.
Really?
Yes. Who forced Julius into the law school?
But it's not vigilantism.
No, wait. We all have our choices and our decisions.
Derrick.
So if I want somebody to protect me,
here's a point I want to make, that some have even argued that the prevalence of the groups even is symptomatic of a failing system, because if people have jobs to do, they will not be picking up arms to go and be protecting ballots. So that's why I'm having a challenge agreeing with you that
it's a business.
Exactly. That's where my challenge is, because in looking at it holistically, there is even the diagnosis that, look, if people have jobs to do, young people have jobs to do, they will not be going around following politicians and be carrying ballot boxes and say they are going to police internal elections or they are going to fight to protect ballots, because they have something valuable to protect.
I agree with you that some of these things are as a result of a failed system. And because the system is failing them, that becomes an alternative path for them. That is what I'm saying. Now, we don't force people into these acts. Our Julius is wanting people to believe.
But someone recruits them.
Yes, but if I want somebody to protect me...
produce a second video of people being sworn in.
But that's what I'm saying, that we don't force people into it. At the end of the day, we formed these groups to come and protect. I mean, look at our just ended regional elections. For instance, if...
we ain't going there. We saw Katachi marching there with some macho men.
But they are to protect him.
They just love him and they went to
support him.
They didn't have to recruit them.
They went to support him. We have friends. Are you telling me that if I go to the gym and there are bodybuilders in the gym and I'm running an election and I need them to come around and come and give me that moral support? Julius sat here and said that he is showing his moral support for the venerable Derrick Agyekum. And so if I go to the gym
the persons in the gym, for a love of you, will march out and come in.
They are friends. Friends do support friends. No, Eric, why are we making it look like somebody specifically go hide people as though they are malicious?
I want us to come to certain truths, that these are things being done actively by the political parties.
Yes, and I'm saying that.
We've seen Azoka Boys, we've seen Bolga Bulldogs and all of that. I was at Asin North when your Deputy National Communications Officer, the one who was at Ghana Gas, supported Kennedy Japan, Abuapapo, when he was coming, there were men he was working with. It suggests there is some active recruitment, because some of the faces I've seen and I know for a very long time, both in the NDC and the NPP. So when an argument is made that it does suggest there's active recruitment, when you say it is maybe they like you and they love you, that's not speaking to what is the reality.
No, but that is the experience I am sharing. But I'm saying that, Eric, all these things is as a result of what people see, what people feel, and what people endure. If people were not beaten, I don't think that the conversation of vigilantism may have come up again. Because you see, the base of the New Patriotic Party are agitating for such protections. Because we can't sit and watch 2028 elections looking at how they are
The base of the NPP are asking for vigilantism.
Not necessarily not vigilantism. They are asking that we need to get people to protect our ballots. We need people to protect us when we are going to cast our votes.
Let me read. Law enforcement.
We saw in Agyekum North when policemen were standing idle when our deputy national organizer was beaten to the pulp. When we saw how Akumsin was being beaten, what are you telling me? Are you telling me that there were no security persons at the voting center?
So the response is vigilantism, because Derrick, I do recall clearly that the persons who were involved in Agyekum North with how Akumsin and those people you are mentioning, and you can put me to strict proof, they were arrested, they were charged, they were convicted and fined under law in this country. In Ghana, we maintain law and order with laws, not vigilante groups.
Nobody's contending the laws. No, but I'm saying that let's watch videos of those who were beaten. Look at the man who flew in the air like that Mortal Kombat.
That is a fact. It is established.
Let me make my point.
The point is, what is the consequences of those wrongdoing?
If Hawa had men guiding her or protecting her, maybe private security, maybe bouncers with degree were protecting her, do you think the man would have had the guts to attack her?
Are you trying to say that how Akumsin's case is the only case of assault on anybody in this country, that anybody who has ever been assaulted must form a vigilante group? Is that the argument?
But why do you want to make my argument as though I'm talking about vigilantism?
But you are saying that your party's base is calling for such. You can use vague amorphous terms as you please, but it points to vigilantism.
I actually wanted to read the Act 999, Section 1, only Section 1. That the act applies to an act or threat of violence or intimidation undertaken by a person or a group of persons to further the interest of that person or any other person affiliated or associated with or connected or related to a political party.
And if you read the language of the subsequent sections, it uses deliberately, directly or indirectly. And it is for purposes of the sort of obfuscations and gymnastics that Derrick is playing here that the law uses that. Read the subsequent sessions. Right. When it comes to engage, it uses the language directly or indirectly. So if you come here and you are saying because you are not calling it vigilante
Section 3 is where you're making reference to prohibition of vigilante groups and activities. A person shall not directly or indirectly form, organize, operate, or promote the formation, organization, operation of activities of a vigilante group. A person who contravenes subsection 1 commits an offense and blah, blah, blah. And you have to go back to section 1 to get an understanding as to what the activity is. That's why when you raise a question, that's my response to you, that when you say the base of the party, is it that there is no trust in the police architecture to do the job?
But Eric,
even after persons were prosecuted.
Eric, I suggested to you that when it comes to the conversation of political parties and vigilantism, I am not a person on principle that I support that political parties must have vigilantes. And I suggested to Kwame that his boss is in the helm of affairs. He can propose to Parliament, send a bill to Parliament to amend the Act 999 so that the punishment thereof for vigilantism will be stringent. But if it is about 6,400 Ghana cedis that people were made to pay, I will procure the services of a private security to avoid me being beaten. That is the point that I'm making. What didn't you see in Agyekum North? Were they not police officers? And so if police officers can watch that our deputy national organizer was beaten, our Akumsin was beaten, and a few other people were slapped and all of that, and those who caused those assaults on the people will be made to pay 6,400, and that would secure my electoral victory. Why won't I?
Is this not justification, right? I asked this question, and I'll go more than 15 minutes with you because we've done a lot of interjection. Is this not justification by the NPP and the comment we heard to bring back vigilante groups? Because remember, in the lead up to 2019, we saw Ayawaso West Wogwan. Police officers were standing by when a member of parliament was assaulted. We've
Yes.
seen elections 2020 where 8 people died. We've seen elections 2024 as well where persons were killed in different parts. That there is a general consensus that these groupings cause havoc on both sides and must not exist. So we cannot use a one-off instance to serve as a basis to want to justify why we should return to the practice which has been condemned by all.
No, but Eric, I'm suggesting to you that if there is an election, 2028 election, myself and Kwame will be so much involved in the elections because we all want our party to assume office. If for nothing at all, I also want to use iPhone 17 and drive a CRV. So
You have
What
been.
sort
You have,
of-
Have I spoken about you? Have I spoken about you?
You've been.
Fine,
I'm not.
have I
I've
spoken
not
about
said
you?
anything.
So
I've not
so
even
let me
said
make
any-
my point.
I've not even said anything, and you are jittery.
Let me make my
Or have I
point.
said something?
No, let me make. But why you interject? Let me make my point. So
I'm not
you
saying
all
anything,
you
you're
all get committed into the elections to ensure the fortunes of our party becomes positive. But I'm saying that some of these things are historical. Currently, people are wounded. People are hurt. When I say wounded, I mean emotionally. People are wounded because of what happened at Blakemanoff and all of that. You may not want to
So
treat
is
us
it, what about Ayawaso West Wogon?
but you,
Where persons
no,
have
you-
been maimed for
no,
life. The point
you
is,
mentioned the
there
point
appears to
that-
be a
At some point in
justification
time, these
of
things must
recent
end.
events.
That's what I'm saying. At some point in time, these things must end. But if they are not ending, the laws must be stringent. And I've made that point earlier, that until such as that, you can't stop people from doing some of these things. In any case, we were in Tafo, my boss's constituency, when we had Machomen coming to the collation center. It took the
An
activity.
internal election.
No, at the 2024 general elections. It took the action of my boss's bodyguard, Boache, who fired warning shots and drove those people away. Do you think that the conversation that we are having, it is something that it is just about, let's say, MPP wanting to win, and so we are calling for vigilantism? No, you see, if Malik Basentali, the CEO for YE, then he's currently the deputy communications officer. He said, when you do ke, we will do keke. When you do keke, we do keke. It is because of the keke that they did in 2024. That is why some people have decided that, no, I need to have my internal security formed. Because you see, these people that they used, I won't even say they used, these people that came attacking the MPP, some of them, just as you alluded to earlier, were people that were for the MPP vigilante groups. But when we agreed that these activities were not necessary, they felt we had jittered them. They felt that we had, not appreciative of what they did for us. And so look at the activities that they were engaged in. And so I'm saying that if we all come to the point that they realize that these things are not necessary, the laws must be stringent. Just as Kwame said, the laws do not enforce itself. We must enforce the laws. But if I am to slap Julius and he runs away from a coalition center, and I would be able to maneuver my way and win an election, and I will just be charged for 6,400 Ghana cedis, why won't I do and go and take a salary of 20,000 as it is explained out there? And so the laws must be stringent. The laws must be scary. If I kill Kwame and I am charged for murder and I'll be going into for life, if I do manslaughter and I'll do 25 years, I don't think I will do that. And so some of these things must be the conversation that we may want to have. Just as I said, his boss must bring a bill to Parliament seeking to amend some of these laws. And at the end of the day, we may not even have this conversation. But looking at the penalty unit for some of these activities, come on, you can't just help but watch people do these things.
Fair enough, Julius.
But let me also make the point that
on the question
Kwame, as the
of
press secretary
stringent-
for the Interior Ministry, has said that if you bring bulldogs onto the street, the security services will do shoot and kill. Let's.
I never
Oh,
said
but
that.
you said you use
Relax.
the available weapons.
said-
But you told me I
yes.
can't use metaphors and all of that.
Yeah.
So I'm interpreting what you said.
If you decide as a civilian grouping to cause mayhem for the country, the same way we are against the use of the security services to cause mayhem for the country, we must be against him too. Wouldn't you agree?
I mean, that's a general consensus has been reached.
Of course. So if private civilian vigilante groupings would cause mayhem for the country, law enforcement must do their job. I don't think anybody should be against that. I will start on the very last points he made. And the, insistence on reference to my boss.
It's just the legislation is not, the present legislation is not stringent.
Derrick didn't read the law. Trust me on that. Derrick didn't read the law. he didn't read Act 999. If he read Act 999, Derrick will know that the consequences there are not fines. The consequences there are a minimum 10-year imprisonment.
No more
So what
than
happened
50.
to
Relax. Oh, Derrick.
So why were those
Derrick. The people, the incident in Agyekum North, the people were not charged under the vigilante law because you must prove that when a criminal, provision exists, you must prove the elements.
Yeah,
the elements of the crime must show that the person acted as a part of a vigilante act. That is why I am telling you.
So
that Derrick. That is why it does not.
If at any point in time,
it does not. You don't worry. Take as long as you want. I'll be back.
Kwame, no, you see, we want
Take
to.
as long as you want.
Kwame, we want to avoid vigilantism, right?
Derrick,
Some of these things.
I'll make the point.
Yes, you will make the point,
Yes.
but spare me a few minutes. Some of these things happen at Agyekum North.
What thing exactly? That is why I asked you.
Persons attacked.
COP
Yes.
Osman.
Yes.
COP Osman yesterday mentioned that
Yes.
you don't need to come under a name.
Yes,
You don't need to come under.
it doesn't mean that the facts of vigilantism must be established when you want to
I
prosecute
agree.
the person.
Kwame,
We
I
are lost
agree.
to that.
Kwame, I agree. But I'm saying that if COP Osman says that you don't need to come under a name,
Yeah.
you don't need to come under a uniform,
Yes.
you don't need to come under a group
Yes.
to prove that you are vigilantism.
Yes.
But so far
It
as
doesn't mean the elements of vigilantism must not be proved.
I'm not against that. I mean, that is what the law says.
Yes.
To prove a crime, the element of that crime must be
Yes.
established.
Yes.
And that is right law.
Yes.
But I'm saying that if the laws are in such that people can maneuver, then we are not making any way in this conversation against vigilantism.
Anyway,
that is the point I'm making.
you've made your point, and it's my time. I'll go back to the point I'm making. You want to make me lose my train of thought, but I
Oh,
won't.
come on.
I won't.
You're
Listen,
a smart guy.
that's fine. Derrick, the things you are saying here are sacrilege. If we should step out of there, and the reason I'm saying the things he's saying here are sacrilege, is that if we should step out of there, and for some reason I assault Derrick, because we are litigating over something, or we are arguing over something, or we are fighting over some interest, would I be charged under the Vigilante Act? Because you will not be able to prove the elements of vigilantism. So when you are saying that people were fined, it means that this law has not been applied, you are wrong. Because those elements were not what was before the court. Because the prosecution must succeed when they are able to prove those key elements. And if you are saying that the incident at Agyekum Central justifies people forming vigilante groups, you are also wrong on that. The reason why is that you keep mentioning my boss, my boss, my boss. And you mentioned the incident in Tafo as well. The incident in Tafo, when it happened, who was Interior Minister? During the 2024 election, who was Interior Minister? Answer me, Derrick. Who was Interior Minister? You remember. Who was Interior Minister?
I mean, it was
Cote.
Henry Cote was interior.
Good.
Right.
So Henry Cote caused it. Is that what you want to say? Henry Cote caused it. You keep mentioning my boss, my boss. Henry Cote caused what happened to your boss. In 2020, how many people died during the election?
More than 8 people died.
Who was Interior Minister?
I can't recall the name, but I'll get that. It was not.
Who was Interior Minister? No, he can help us. I know that, but I don't want to. I want him to mention it. Who was Interior Minister? 8 people died in the 2020 election. Was the response of the NDC that we will form vigilante groups, as Derrick sought to justify? Because he attempted, meandered his way to try and justify the statements of the lady in the video we just played. That it is because of that. He used the term, the base of the party is calling for some protection, which is why they are forming vigilante groups. In 2020, they killed people. The base of the NDC doesn't know how to call for vigilantes. Or the NDC doesn't have a base.
I am
coming
the
to...
base of the party was very angry at what had
But
happened.
did we form vigilante groups as a response? Aya also West Wagon. It was members of the security services drawn at the time. Muntaka Mohammed Mubarak was not Interior Minister. But you did Aya also West Wagon. So what is this reframe about mentioning him? It's easy to just be apportioning blames and be pointing into people. But Muntaka was not interior minister when you did Ayawaso West Wogon. Muntaka was not interior minister when you said your own boss in his old Tafo was attacked. Muntaka was not interior minister. Muntaka was not interior minister when you killed 8 people in 2020. Muntaka was not interior minister when in 2024 you killed people. But did Muntaka's party call for you to form vigilante groups? For the NDC to form vigilante groups? No. And when you spoke about Ablekuma Central, Ablekuma North, as a justification for why you are forming vigilante groups, when Muntaka was minister,
Ambrose Derry was the interior minister.
Yeah, I wanted him to mention it for the record. I like things for the record. I wanted him to mention it. When Muntaka was interior minister and that incident happened, the people were prosecuted, true or false? You answer me.
Yes.
They were prosecuted, true or false?
I mean, we've reached that conclusion
True or false?
a number of times. True.
Good.
That's happened already.
So you respond to those things with prosecutions. That is exactly what is being done now. So when you keep mentioning him, under you, 2020, we now have to come to deal with the 2020 election violence and investigate them under President Mahama. 2020. It means that when 2020 happened, there was no consequence. It was because there was no consequence that people saw that they could attack my own friend, the old Tafo MP. It was because nothing happened after 2020. That is why people thought that they could attack your boss in 2024 when Henry Kote was in the office. So let's stop this thing where we try to apportion blame to political officials because it is easy to mention them because they are not in your party. It's easy to be mentioning Muntaka because he is not in your party. But do you see the record? Do you see the record? You did not even prosecute up to now the individuals that were involved in Ayawaso West Wogon. You are aware that a prime suspect is yet to be identified, right? You are aware.
Yeah.
How did that happen? He's outside of this country by now. How did that happen? Because between the period when all that happened until the 10th of January 2025, when President Mahama was giving instructions for investigations to be conducted, some other people were in leadership. Someone else was president. His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, as he then was. Ambrose Derry was in government. Henry Kote was in government. It's easy to be mentioning Muntaka. It's easy, Derrick, to be mentioning Muntaka. But the facts under you and the facts under him, see the difference. See the difference. 2020. How many years ago was 2020? How many years ago was Ayawaso West Wogon? Ayawaso West Wogon happened in which year?
It's 2019. It was 2019.
Good. How many years ago was Ayawaso West Wogon? How many years ago was Ablekuma North that you are talking about? But immediately there was consequences. Immediately. That is how you deal with breach of law, with lawful consequences, not forming of vigilantes. I expected that Derrick would immediately call out the said lady. He remembers her name. I don't remember her name.
Jennifer Foriwa.
I expected that Derrick would immediately call out the lady, reject and attaint her conduct, call for such conduct to end. But do you know what Derrick did? He said one of the most, with respect to him, he's my brother, one of the most ridiculous, one of the most ludicrous things, that it's a business. Vigilantism, a business in Ghana, and that people can go and gym. And when they have body, they now make themselves.
We disagreed with him on that.
They now make themselves available. You did, and I'm making mine. They now make themselves available for the so-called political class in Afenyo Makin's language to employ them as a business. Business, vigilantism, business. Are we really accepting this on 3FM? Vigilantism as a business, and people are allowed to engage in it and make themselves available for that purpose, and it is not politicians using people. Is that what Derrick wants us to believe in this studio? Please, Derrick. Some of the things we shouldn't do them in the name of politics. We shouldn't do them in the name of politics. We shouldn't do certain things in the name of politics. Call vigilantism a business, justify people who are recruiting those people as not using people. They are using people.
Right.
Why is it that you are saying that people can walk around with those people. Why wouldn't you? If it's a business, why are you not in that business? You are very big, Derrick. You are very big. You are macho.
I'm not interested.
Derrick, you are a macho.
I'm not macho.
Compared to me, you are a macho. So if vigilantism is a business and it is that lucrative and it is not people who you people deem as lower class people in your own languages that you are engaging to do these things, why are you not in that business if it is decent enough? You are a macho. You are saying that people can go and gym and then they will go and do. You are a macho, Derrick. Why are you not in vigilantism?
Fair enough.
Let's. I think that we should end this conversation coming together with one voice to reject these things, not calling it business. People are free to do it. It is not because you deem them as lower, it is because you deem them as lower. And pointing fingers to Muntaka. This thing should stop.
Fair enough.
Muntaka is not the one who asked what's her name? What role does he play in your party?
The lady.
The lady. Muntaka is not the one who asked her to go and be telling people that vigilantes should come back when John Boydu is general secretary.
Julius, thank you. Derrick, you have the final word on this. And I take this quick break. When we return, then we'll talk briefly on Galamsey.
With the greatest of deference to the Interior Minister, I think that Julius was having his own conversation because all that I made reference to your boss was the fact that he's in the helm of affairs today, and so I think that some of these things, some of these proposals must come from him to Parliament, and certain amendments must be made.
But at least from what we've read, it does suggest that the legislation is stringent. 10 to 15 years.
Yes, it's solid, and people are actually being punished.
You see, let's all not pretend. Let's all not pretend. There are very fine lawyers, and my senior here at the law school is a very fine person, a very smart person who, at any point in time, may be able to point out these loopholes. Are you telling me that the prosecution that was done by the Attorney General's office failed to establish those elements, and so that is how come the people were made to pay that 6,400 Ghana cedis? If that becomes the case, then anybody at all, you see, we are failing to look at it.
No, Derrick, you are wrong.
Eric, let me make my point.
You took few seconds from me. I could, if you would indulge me, please, just a second. The guy you made reference to, the one who was flying, as you said, was an individual who attacked somebody. For you to charge the person under the vigilante law, you must establish that the person engaged in that conduct pursuant to either protection, a political interest, a land interest, all those interests that the law has stated. That's why I'm telling you that if you and me on election day, I just jump and assault you, Derrick, I can't be charged under this law simply because I assaulted you.
That is right.
I'll be charged for assault.
No problem.
You must show the elements.
No problem. But you see, look at what the law says. When such is done in protection of a political interest, land, and all of those conversations, can we say that the man didn't do that in protection of a political interest?
It's not simply because they were on election ground.
The people that beat our deputy national organizer, Chris Lloyd, on what grounds did they do that? But you see, I am saying that if these things become the conversation, Eric, we wouldn't be making any headway when it comes to preventive vigilantism. I said in my opening remarks that I am not for once on principle in support of political parties hiring or recruiting people to come and, as it were, engage in vigilantism and all of that. But I'm saying that I am also not against people wanting private security for themselves. In any case, we have bouncers with degree. Isn't it a business for them? Isn't TV3 having private security? Isn't it a business?
They are registered under law. They are registered under law.
So I'm saying that
you can't justify Jennifer Queen's conduct by saying that.
I'm not talking about Jennifer. I'm saying that I am not against vigilantism, because at the end of the day, when there is a clash in Otafo constituency, I may not be able to run. I may suffer the casualty. My family, my relative may suffer the casualty. And so I am not in support of vigilantism. But I am not against, based on what has been happening in the past, I am not against private security. I am not against my boss wanting to have recruit a service of private security men. I am not against it. And let's establish that until we have a proper regulation that will criminalize some of these activities, we wouldn't make any headway. And that is the point that I make in reference to his boss. That look, Kwame, maybe a proposal must come from his outfit to Parliament to solve some of these issues. Because look, if you tell me in broad daylight today that the prosecution was unable to prove the element of vigilantism on the about 8 or 10 people that were on our deputy national organizer beating him on election grounds, and then they were trying, let's say, on the tangent of assault, and so they were made to pay that 6,400 Ghana cedis. Any politician can afford it. That's why I am saying that the laws must be tough to prevent some of these things. We cannot, on one breath, wanting to deal away.
The law in question, Derrick, which I have read, and there's a copy.
The minimum is 10 years, maximum 15. I don't know what Derrick is talking about.
So, Eric, you see the conversation. Yesterday, I saw a post on Facebook on what you have to do when you wake up and then you invited a lady over and the person had died in your room. What do you have to do? And one person, MC Frank, had written, oh, don't touch the person, don't interfere with evidence and all of that. And I wrote under the comment that if not for the fact that I'm a law student, I would have said that this is just theory and not practical. Because how do you tell me that if you wake up and somebody is dead, you won't touch the person and all of that? That comes to the conversation of vigilantism. Eric, the laws are there. 15 years must scare people off. But if I am engaged in such an act and the prosecution fails to establish the element of that crime, and so I was tried under a different crime that they were able to prove or establish the element, anybody at all, as I've always said, can find these loopholes and navigate it. Unless, of course, we may not want to be honest in the conversation.
Here's the important nuance or context I want to provide to this conversation.
Were we not in this country? Let me even make this point. Were we not in this country when we had our Delta Force guys go to a court, oust a judge because...
They were fined as well.
Exactly. And so, are we making any headway? These were MPP people.
So you admit today that you're your Delta Force guys. I'm glad you did that. I'm glad.
So, I mean, that is the news that was out there. Let me even make that admission that they did that. They were fined. Eric, were they not fined?
Yeah, they were fined.
Was that the judgment that they were supposed to receive? But that is the law. And I'm saying that if you want to deal with some of these things, I don't think the laws as we have it currently will be able to solve some of these things. If the strict elements that must be proved, you see, when we go to Parliament today, because it's an emergency recall, they suspend a lot of their standing orders so that they can make progress. Because even for Speaker to record them, you may have to give them a 14-day notice before they can come back. It wasn't up to 14 days. And so I'm saying that we must have the conversation properly. If people engage in some of these things, as the COP Osman has established, that these people, you don't need to have a name, you don't need to have a uniform, you don't need to have a group. But even if they are 3, they are 2, and then they do some of these things, vigilantism can come in any form, shape. And so we may have to look at it from that angle and not necessarily say that we have 10 to 15 years and so there are laws.
Let me come in with this nuance. Doesn't that then suggest that on paper, right, and to the both of you just briefly before I go on this break, on paper, the legislation exists, but in practice, both parties are operating private security, and it is circumventing the legislation as has been passed.
That's not true. That's
right?
not true.
Because
it's not true.
And
I will show you why.
And the example I was going to give is to provide a bit more context was that when you are at an election ground and someone assaults you, yes, it's for political interest, but it doesn't show a planned activity or persons recruited, and so there will be a struggle there to point to vigilantism, and it will just be assault. But that also becomes a branch to which persons can escape outright prosecutions in relation to that. But let me get back to the point as to both parties hiding behind the name internal security and continuing in the tangent in which they are. Just 2 minutes each.
The facts don't support that. The facts don't support that. And I'll use just 1 minute on that. So let me use my first 1 minute for this. He did mention Samia Oku. I respect Samia Oku. And that in 2016, people were telling Samia Oku that they need protection of the ballots, blah, 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 and all of that, and which is why they recruited some of these people. Samia Oku, who I respect very much, was still youth organizer of the MPP. These brutalities, he was in Legon with me. You were at Institute of, what do you call it? This university at Medina, private university, where we held our NUCS Congress in 2021. Lakeside. You were with us that day. What happened? Your own Dennis Labi Ampofo faced that brutality that day. NUCS election, student elections. When I won the election, I can read the tweets to you. In the comment section, people were shocked that I won. You know why? They were shocked that despite all that, I'm a known NDC person, I managed to win that election. They were beating even some of their own people when they felt that it was not in the interest they are advancing at that time. Using people in national security uniforms. I don't know whether national security people are supposed to be, but the khaki, the same khaki that was used in Ayawaso West Wagon. What was the justification for that? Was it the same people who were calling for protection of ballots under him that you are talking about? Is that a justification for it? For what happened at Lakeside University? We were all there. We all saw it. It was broadcasted by the media. So if you want to hide under where you say, anything why you say no, it's not true. And that brings me to answering your question. In 2020, people were killed. You remember how many? 8. Did NDC hide under that and say that we are forming vigilantes? Do you remember NDC vigilantes from 2020 after people were killed to protect ballots in Ghana? Do you remember any? You tell me. Do you remember NDC vigilantes to protect ballots after Ayawaso West Wagon? We went into the 2020 election after Ayawaso West Wagon, true or false? If there is analogy that the base was calling, and so they could hide under, nameless people and all of those things to attack, why didn't we do it? Do you know what I see here? Let me land on that point. Do you know what I see here? I see people who had the advantage of having law enforcement in their hands, abused it in power, killed 8 people in 2028. 2024. 2020. 2024, they repeated the same thing. And now that they have lost power, the fear of being empty, that fear of now being naked, is causing them to do this. Because when you look at the facts chronologically, from Ayawaso to 2020, from the Nooks events that happened at Lakeside University, I myself was there. I contested that election. He was supporting me. He was there. All of them were there. If you look at all those events, abuse of raw state power, now that they have lost power, the fear of being naked is making the likes of, remind me of the name again.
Jennifer
and the MPP to go now and form vigilantes. That is what is happening. Let's admit the fact. The facts don't support any fear.
Come in for me.
So I think that the problem with Kwame is the announcement, because he's saying that the NDC didn't announce that they were going to form any vigilantes.
We didn't even use them.
Kwame,
where did we use them?
2024 elections, we all saw what happened in this country. We all saw when MPs, when parent ministers led the charge of these guys, visiting collation centers and all of that. What didn't happen in Ablekuma, Obuasi East or Obuasi West? Dr. Patrick Adams constituency. What didn't happen there? I have told you that we had a similar experience in Tafo. We saw some of these things. We saw how Ablekuma North, the reason why we had to go and do that re-election at some polling stations was because of some of these things. People had to burn down a whole school facility and all of that. And you are telling me that what? I'm saying that, look, if we want to address this conversation of vigilantism, we must do it so well that people may not have to look at the laws, look at the loopholes in the laws and escape that. And that is what I'm only suggesting. You see, you're in the helm of affairs today. Fine, you can say all that you want because you are into research. Tell us we abused the law, the power that when we had. We did that. We did this.
Tell you did.
No problem.
It's a fact.
No problem. Now you have the charge now. A charge to keep I have. You have the charge now. And so make the law stringent just so that people may not...
need that. We need you not announcing that you are forming groups, Derrick.
You can't stop
the law is jailing. Private security is what Jennifer. Is that private security?
I don't know.
There is a direct when it comes to administration of police in Ghana.
I'm saying that
there is a private security directorate under the Ghana Police Service where you register private security groups. What the woman is saying here. Play it again. Please play it again. Really, Derrick, are you really willing to go to these ridiculous, tangents just to maintain these sort of arguments? Derrick, what are you doing here?
Kwame, I am saying that we can't prevent.
They'll register burger bulldogs. And all those things.
If just about name formation, I can go and register.
You are saying
Kwame,
I want you to. I want
You are
to
talking about vigilante groups. The woman was literally talking about vigilante. Derrick, what are you doing?
My line manager.
Kwame won't allow me.
No, I just don't want you saying these ridiculous things and they are on record.
No,
I am worried for you.
Kwame, I am saying that. You see, I am saying that we must do so in such a way that will scare people to even want to have private securities protecting their ballot for them. If you want to do away with this vigilantism conversation, I am suggesting to you that people can hide behind whatever name, whatever cause, and have these vigilantes operate. And so if you are keen on addressing this conversation of vigilantism, we must make sure that the law do not give people the room. And I've said earlier that, Eric, if what we saw in Agyekum, the prosecution was unable to establish the element of vigilantism, and they were tried under assault and whatsoever charges that were before the court, then anybody at all can afford that. If it is the services of a lawyer, they can afford that. If it is the service of the penalty unit, if it is the fee for the penalty unit, they can afford that. But we must have the laws just so. It will scare me, Derrick Agyekum, that I'm on an election, I'm on a ballot, and I'll have private securities who are protecting or manning up the ballot for me. That is the conversation that we must have. And also maybe some form of education, the government must resource maybe NCCE, so that they have some form of education for our people to understand that, I mean, life matters and then life goes beyond politics. And so there's no point in wanting to hurt one another. I remember my first experience that made me have a change of mind.
Out of time.
30 seconds and I'll be done. There was a time in 2020, my memory is right, when our then minister, Lance Minister, the Honorable Samuel Abu Jinapo, had a heated argument with his senior brother, John Jinapo, the current energy minister. And just right after that heated argument, that session in Parliament, I went to the MP's cafeteria to, I think, meet my boss and take an item or something, and I saw them eating. And I'm very clear on that conversation. They were eating banku and oku. They bought from the Parliament cafeteria. And just after they were done eating, John said, Abu is a minister. Honorable Abu is a minister, so he should pay for it. And Abu said that, oh, when we were coming to Accra, mommy left me in your care. You are my senior brother, so you should pay. These are siblings. At any point in time, they are blood. They won't fight because of politics.
Fair enough.
And so I am not in support of people coming to fight for politicians. That is the last thing that I will subscribe to. But I'm saying that if the laws do not prevent people from having private securities at their own polling stations and what have you, these conversations are heading nowhere.
Thank you. Let me go for this break. When I return, I'll use the 5 minutes news time for us to do a quick thought on Galamsey briefly.